Hello everyone. My name is Chandraneel Das. I am a first year student, PGPM student at Indian Institute of Management, Tiruchirappalli. So, as part of our coursework for Indian economic policy, we're supposed to make a video about any economic issue that the country is facing right now. Um, so, what I would like to speak about today is about the economic slowdown that the country has been facing since the past one and a half years. What have been the various reasons behind that, and how we can come out of it. At the same time, I would also like to speak something about the crisis that has been going on globally, the COVID-19 or the coronavirus crisis that has affected economies all over the world. I would briefly speak something about it. Now, coming into the economic slowdown in India. India's GDP was growing quite steadily till 2018, and even in the first half of fiscal year 2019, India's GDP growth was uh, quite steady. Um, but in the last two quarters of fiscal year 2019, the GDP growth rate came down to 6.5% and then 5.8% in fiscal year 19. Even in the current fiscal year, the last three quarters, we have seen the GDP grow at 5%, then 4.5%, and then 4.7% in the last three quarters. So there have been various, there have been various debates about what might have been the reason behind all this. Some people are saying that it is primarily because some people have been saying that this kind of slowdown is cyclical. Some people are saying it is due to a lot of structural problems in the economy. I think it's a combination of both. We have seen that domestic investment in the construction sector and in the infrastructure sector have gone down considerably. We've also seen that the automobile sales, domestic automobile sales, decreased significantly in the last 1 year. Apart from that, we have seen very lower credit going into the commercial sector, and that is probably because of the NBFC crisis that India faced in the year before. And as I said, investment is around less than 30% of India's GDP right now. So, but at the crux of all this, the reason behind in India's economic slowdown is um, a decrease in demand. The overall demand in this country has decreased because the household consumption has decreased. Even the Nobel Prize winner, Mr. Abhijit Banerjee, mentioned that India's household consumption is at an all-time low. Uh, so yes, so these are the major, because of less demand, there has not been enough consumption. There Because of less consumption, there has not been enough demand in the Indian economy, which has led to this economic slowdown. Now, coming to the advantages that India have, the government has been talking about reaching the $5 trillion economy. We have been speaking about that, and probably because India has a major advantage, an advantage that we have been speaking about for close to a decade or more than a decade, and that is India's demographic dividend. Currently, India's demography is going through a transition phase. Most of the population, the majority of the population, is capable of being part of the workforce. So this itself is a huge boost to the economy, because even if the output per worker is stagnant, the overall output is going to increase because we have higher number of people in the workforce. At the same time, another demographic transition that has been going on is that the proportion of the young and the old people who do not work, who are the dependent population. I think these population as a proportion of the working population is very small. So this means that the working population is has to worry less about who they have to support, because there are lesser number of people who do not work. So this is indirectly going to benefit, because this will result in an increased amount of savings. So this kind of savings can be in forms of investment that is always going to help help boost infrastructure development in this country. So theoretically speaking, everything seems quite fine because we have a young population. We have the government taking up initiatives like Make in India to increase production. I think again that was primarily because I think we have seen China turn its economy around by turning into manufacturing hub because of by turning into manufacturing hub and turning into manufacturing hub. So India has taken up initiatives like Make in India. We have a young population. We have a small proportion of dependent population. So all these kind of things indicate that India should be growing at a fast pace. But there has been a lot of other issues as well. There has been higher unemployment. I think this unemployment causes uh, people to decrease their spending, because as the unemployment rises, people do not have enough money to buy products or buy commodities. So this indirectly affects the cycle. Now once the production decreases, investor confidence decreases, as a result of which higher amount is not invested in this country for infrastructural development. So what is the reason behind this unemployment? The primary reason behind that is lack of skills. Though we have a young population, we do not have a skilled young population. What China did to improve was um, improve its skilled labor. Because of huge amount of skilled labor at cheaper rates, China was able to turn into manufacturing hub. So India needs to do that. We do not have the population does not have enough skills to become a to help India grow into manufacturing superpower. So what the Indian government needs to do right now is organize, take up initiatives for take up huge, large scale skill development programs in this country. So this is going to um, help, and this is going to help initiatives like Make in India become a huge success. At the same time, India also need to take a look at the education system of this country and revamp it, because having a sound education system always makes the process of skill development quite easier. So both of these things go hand in hand. India also needs to spend a lot more on its research and development. I think India is not spending as much as it should. What happens if we try to improve our research and development budget? Mm, we once we become a technological superpower, it will open up a lot of other avenues. For example, the defense sector. India is primarily dependent on foreign nations for its defense. Now America has become a superpower on the basis of its defense industry. So if India is able to infuse a lot of money into the R&D, which will consequently improve the defense industry in this country, that is also going to help India come out of this economic slowdown. So instead of just boosting the demand in this country, India needs to think long term. So a combination of all this, by a combination of another factor behind all this, another factor that can be a possible reason for India's economic slowdown is all the regulation that a lot of companies have to follow to come and set up manufacturing hubs. Companies like Tesla have openly told that the regulations are quite stringent in India, as a result of which they don't want to open their units in this country. So the government has taken up initiatives, like in the last budget, we saw corporate taxes being slashed by the finance ministry, which is a big boost. So India needs to take a look at all the regulations that it has. So a combination of all this, conducting huge, large-scale development programs, improving the education sector, also spending a lot more on research and development, at the same time tweaking its regulations. A combination of all this is going to help India come out of the economic slowdown and start going back to the days where India was growing at a rate of 7.5% as the economy. Now, coming to the crisis that the whole world is facing, the COVID-19 or the coronavirus that has affected everyone in the world. India, what I feel, coronavirus has exposed a lot of deficiencies, structural deficiencies in India's economy. Now, people have been saying that India has handled situation quite well in comparison to other countries, but I think India had a lot of time compared to other countries to handle the situation. Apart from that, we see India's performance being so good in this crisis is probably because we have not tested enough number of patients. Now, we are not able to test enough number of patients because we do not have enough number of health workers. At the same time, we do not have enough number of testing kits and the PPEs which are required for the health workers. Basically, we do not have the health infrastructure to test as many people as we should. That has been the primary reason behind India's such good performance in terms of numbers. So what India needs to look at post this crisis is improve the healthcare infrastructure in this country. India needs to open up more medical colleges or public sector medical colleges so that India produces a lot of more doctors and healthcare workers in general. That is going to be very important. At the same time, we see we are dependent on other countries to build all this testing kits and the PPEs. So if we had a skilled population, we had the proper assembly line, we could have built all those things. We might have been self-sufficient to handle this. We might have been more prepared to handle this kind of a crisis. So what I said earlier, that large scale skill development programs are quite important, quite required for the for the Indian economy to grow. It also helps to deal with crisis like we're facing right now. So yes, in the future, India needs to look more towards the healthcare sector. India needs to spend more on improving the healthcare sector so that it will be able to it will be able to deal with crisis in a better manner like corona. At the same time, we need to conduct a lot of skill development. We need to invest more in education. We need to invest a lot in R&D. At the same time, we need to keep boosting investor confidence, by infusing credit and by giving out loans, by improving credit flow into the commercial sector. We need to take up all these initiatives, and that is going to help India come out of the economic slowdown. Also, it will also help India prepare to deal with a crisis like corona in the near future. Thank you very much.